What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing the week number 4 stock report. If y'all are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the community. We have videos coming like this every single week. You like mock drafts? I actually technically have 2 a week, one with trades and one without. We're going to be doing some more mock mocks, and then we're going to be continuing them very, very soon. Excited for that. Let's get going in on this. Let's have some fun, because there's a lot of names to talk about. And you see the 3 superstars. Yes, I'm just going to start putting the stars of the week right here just to spoil them, because we're starting out with the stock up with the stars of the week. Starting out with Xavier Legette. Dude put up like 180 yards and a couple touchdowns. Unbelievable performance. Obviously, this dude has been feasting this year. He had another game where he had about like 170 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns as well. He's been performing phenomenally at 6'3", 227 pounds. He's put up 550 yards this year, and I think that's just about the same amount as he did in the 3 years previous combined. So it's good to see that somebody like this with breakaway speed is going to be actually able to make a name for himself. He's doing a phenomenal job. Very excited for that. You know, just being able to see someone who has that frame and that speed. Now, I don't see it throughout the whole rep, and that's why you just see him like totally burn the DB after he gets the ball in his hands. I don't fully understand why he's not running that fast the whole rep. Just personally, I don't get that. Maybe he's just doing that so he runs 80%. Spencer Rattler overthrows the ball on purpose, and he ends up speeding up to catch it. Maybe that's the strategy there. I'd love that strategy if that were the case. But he doesn't generate the separation and show the speed that he does after the catch. But honestly, a team that uses their guys really well after the catch is going to be McDaniel's system. Obviously, this one, don't take the dream fit too seriously, but the Niners as well. I think he'll be a top 100 pick, just hasn't had the production beforehand to really justify it. There's not a bunch of all 22 on him. So once that starts coming out, I'm going to be so excited to give you guys a full breakdown, because this class is stacked in receivers. People get mad at my rankings because, you look at the numbers like, oh, well, for example, Xavier Worthy is like number 10. How dare you? And I like Xavier Worthy. There's nothing wrong with him. There's just some other players that I get all excited about over him. So just have to put that out there. Next, we got Kobe Bryant. This guy had like a 97 grade versus the run defense grade for PFF at 175 pounds. Obviously pretty notorious. Has been around Twitter or X with that monster hit that started the BYU game. Big fan of that. This dude's been an absolute ball hawk, and I believe he also got an interception. So he's been doing a phenomenal job this year. Just going to be one of those guys that I'm very excited to see. The team like the Bears, where you are in a division with some QBs, the potential bunch of new QBs that could be feasted upon, and also a run-heavy division. 175 is not great, but the way that he uses that 175 is similar to Devin Witherspoon last year, when he was, 180 pounds and no one was really talking about it. This guy is obviously a little bit more lanky than that, but he still uses his frame very well. Hopefully it holds up over the long run, because his talent is special. And then I have to put him on here. This dude has like a 95.6 pass blocking grade against some of the best edge rushers in college football. We are going to be bringing on Brennan Jackson today after this show in order and being able to talk about this matchup right here. Those of y'all who know, Taliesin was my number 2 tackle coming into the year. Obviously, he was not even people's number 12 tackle coming into the year. Big fan of this guy, and he's continued to prove it over and over and over again. He's actually, I think I put him above Joe Alt, and I think I'm 90% sure I have him above Joe Alt now. And, Olu Fashanu jumped him. So just because Olu is unbelievable. He's taken major steps. Got to give him credit where credit is due. Taliesin, phenomenal player, has been extremely consistent. That this past game versus Washington State was the game to study. And when you can hold RJ Stone and Brennan Jackson to very limited pressures, I think he actually did 0 pressures. And the left tackle was the one, I'm forgetting the guy's name too, because he's actually an NFL draft prospect. I think Noah Gray or Josh Gray. He let up the majority of the pressures. So spectacular performance by one of my favorite players in the draft. Obviously, the Steelers can always use extra offensive line help. So unfortunately, that's going to be my fit, because also I'm a homer and want the Steelers to get one of my favorite players in the draft. Now we have these stock up players, the rest of the guys who did not make the stars list, even though they should, because Brian Thomas is an absolute freaking all-star. I just wanted to highlight some other guys because I wanted to talk about him and Malik Neighbors at the same time. Both these guys absolutely feasted on that Arkansas secondary. And I mentioned the guy's name in the stock down list. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head, but poor guy had 23 coverage reps with 3 interceptions, or 3 touchdowns against, not 3 interceptions. That would be a reason to be in the stock up, if not the stars list. But, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors feasted on that dude. Dwight McLaughlin was the one lone bright spot in that defense because this dude was having interception after interception. Well, not interception after interception, but he's been absolutely locked down. Did have a really key interception in that game. Didn't lead to much, but it was certainly a momentum shifter, which is great. And every single time you saw Brian Thomas just absolutely toast the dude who's going to be absolutely shamed in a couple minutes, you got to see Dwight McLaughlin hip-to-hip coverage. I love seeing that. He is spectacular. Just one of the best corners that's not being talked about remotely. I might be bringing him up even more. And this is not to stroke my ego here, but we have Dwight McLaughlin, Tyler Barron, and Marshawn Lloyd, all my guys. I have Marshawn Lloyd as potentially the RB1 of the class if he fixes his fumbling issue and, breaks tackles a little better. But we'll talk about Tyler Barron first. 8 pressures, incredible. The guy's been an absolute menace in the run game as well. Able to sniff out screens too. Just a rare talent. People talk about JT Tuimoloau, and this is not to crap on JT because I've actually raised him up my board. But I feel like the comments that people are making about JT Tuimoloau, you could easily make about Tyler Barron, if not higher praise. This guy's a better athlete. And I'm not, again, trying to push JT down. I'm just telling y'all, you think JT's here. I'm telling you where Tyler Barron should be. Not where JT should be, where Tyler Barron should be, because this guy is spectacular. They use him as a D tackle half of these freaking reps. It's atrocious to put a 265 guy on the interior at 3 tech, but Tennessee's going to do whatever the hell they want. Tyler Barron is an absolute menace, though. Just going to be one of those names that you need to keep written down. This guy's going to be probably potentially a first-round pick. He is unbelievable. Marshawn Lloyd, again, just talked about him. Just one of those guys where I watch him and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's not fair. It's not fair how damn good he is. So, big fan of Marshawn Lloyd. Bless Harris out of Florida State. Now, this guy has allowed 0 pressures versus Clemson, as well as LSU. He allowed it versus, I believe, Southern Miss, and I forget what other school Florida State has played. But when you don't allow a pressure versus guys like I know Harold Perkins wasn't rushing that game, but they still have plenty of top-tier edge rushers there at LSU. And then versus Clemson, Ruka Roro, we're going to talk about him soon, holding him to 1 pressure, and that 1 pressure came on the opposite line of scrimmage. There's something there. There is. I don't know enough about this player. I have not watched him because, to be fair, he didn't even play last year. We had Robert Scott play last year. But Bless Harris, very intriguing. Very intriguing. Caught my eye. Ashton Galote. This dude put up, I believe, 8 pressures. No, he put up 10 pressures, excuse me. And that's pretty awesome. I mean, he did it against Boston College. One of those tackles let up 9 pressures. I debated putting him on my stock down list, but I don't know if his stock was there in the first place. But Ashton Galote, I've been hearing quite a bit about. This guy is a pressure machine. Louisville does it again. Last year they had it with Yaya Diaby and Yasser Abdullah. Now they're going to have it with Ashton Galote. And they have another dude there too, but Galote's kicking some ass. So definitely an name to keep your eye on. 270 pounds. Jonah Ellis, one of my favorite players. He is the brother of Caden Ellis. I think Christian Ellis as well. I just saw him. I didn't even look at the stats. It was week number 0 or week number 1. And I remember I messaged Broshman. I'm like, dude, we got to watch out for this Jonah Ellis guy. He has first-round potential. He is spectacular. Unique movement skills and unbelievable motor. It's one of those guys where you see them super duper twitchy while they're moving, and they're just mean. They're ferocious. This guy's that. He ended up finally getting his breakout game with 8 pressures and versus UCLA, which UCLA usually does have some pretty damn good offensive linemen. Then we got Josh Kelly. There's a ton of guys I could have talked about if I'm going to be honest. But Josh Kelly out of Washington State, he's the guy who had pretty much his OBJ game with multiple unbelievable receptions. So one of the key guys to bringing them back at least into contention, did a phenomenal job. Same thing with Cam Ward. He was also on my stock up list, but I didn't want to. Josh Kelly was really the eye opener. Then you got BJ Green here on another show in a row. He had 6 pressures. He'd been putting up 3 to 6 pressures a game, and that's versus USC, which again, high level talent, you're consistent, definitely a name to watch. And I really do like ASU defenders. Next, we have the stock down with our one dud of the week because, again, I don't really want to just shame a ton of dudes. Also, there's not really too many negative notable performances to make a huge stock down list. So unfortunately, this week we have one dud, and that is going to be Donovan Jackson. 4 pressures allowed, while the rest of the offensive line didn't do too shabby. And I'd be a little bit more worried about the edge rushers for Notre Dame than the defensive interior. Of course, I haven't studied the defensive interior for Notre Dame, but this is a guy who I've had listed as a top 32 prospect before. He ended up slipping down quite a bit, but this is genuinely worrisome because he's a great athlete. I think he belongs as a tackle. He doesn't have the anchor required, and I think he needs to continue polishing up his game as a true left tackle. And I just don't know if he's going to fit. So I would love to see a team that can develop interior and just, potentially kick him to tackle, like the Patriots being a good, fun option for him. Now, to end this off with the stock down, there you go. Jaheim Singletary, this poor dude, 23 reps, 3 touchdowns scored on him. And I just felt bad for the poor guy. Ruka Rojo talked about him, 1 pressure, and that's where Bless came in to the stock up list. Moose Muhammad, 0 yards, 1 drop, 2 targets. For a guy who is a number 11 wide receiver on my board, very, very unimpressed. Then we got JJ Pigou, or I think it's, I forgot how to properly pronounce that. It might be Pigou. Peggy's. I think it might be Peggy's. I don't know. But regardless, this guy was held to 0 pressures, didn't do anything versus Alabama. Zachary Franklin, I think he had like 1 reception in that entire game. He just has not stepped up into a primary role. And then you got Christian Mahogany, 3 pressures allowed, obviously coming off of that ACL tear, was really hoping for him to ascend back into that legitimate contention area. You can't, Louisville defensive interiors are not what you should be afraid of. The tackles I'll give some excuse for, but the defensive interior, not over a guy who should be, some people consider, a late first to early second round pick. Jaden Hicks just had a 44.4% missed tackle rate. That's just unfortunate there, but still a spectacular player. The hype on Jaden Hicks is just at an all-time high. And then Ja'Cory Brooks, he graded out as one of my top 10 receivers, and he's been absolutely useless. As a product himself, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. But in this system, just the way that they're playing, he's not being targeted. He's not being used. Unfortunately, he might not even be draftable based on the fact that, sometimes you got to produce in college to be able to be producing in the NFL. Maybe sometimes it's not always a 1-to-1 translation, but usually if you can't produce in one level, you're not going to do better at the next considerably. If he does 50 yards a game in the NFL, cool. That still doesn't justify where he is on my board. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. See y'all later this week. Later.